All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I have here an E53 X5. It's kind of an older vehicle that belongs to a friend of mine. He brings it in when he wants to get things done. So today, you can see the garage is just, we have too much going on in here right now. Got a couple quads back there to work on, a couple carts, some engine parts. It looks like a mess, I know, but I know where every little thing is. Anyway, this came in, was kind of priority. We did his fuel injectors for him. The engine's running a lot better. It did some sitting in its time, but anyway, let's get into what we're here for, and that is for the transmission service. You guys are probably looking at that stuff back there. That's for an N62 along with those cylinder heads, and there's a later video to come on that, refreshing an N62, taking care of the valve stem seals and all that good stuff. Anyway, like I said, let's stay on task. We're going to take care of the transmission service. What I like to do is buy the genuine kit from BMW, which comes with the gasket, it comes with the bolts, and it comes with the filter. But always check, because BMW likes to separate all kinds of stuff on you. All right. This one is a 2003 X5, I believe, with the 3.0 engine. I'm going to show you one very important thing here. There's the brand name, Filtran. Okay. Even for the ZF transmissions, this is what they use, Filtran. Okay. Now, you can go buy an aftermarket filter, and the neck will fit just fine, and it'll filter. It'll have good media in it, and it'll filter just fine. But at the least opportune moment, this thing's gonna fall out, and I'm gonna show you why. And this is from experience, okay? If you see this little mark in the pan right here, that comes from this little standoff, okay? That's what keeps this filter up into the transmission's pump. This is where it draws the fluid. By the way, always look inside these and make sure they're clean and there's no plastic or anything inside there before you put that up in your transmission. Okay, you don't want to be wondering what's going on. All right, it's very important that it has that little stand. And I have had it happen before. Don't let it happen to you. Buy OE. All right, if it's missing that little plastic thing, take my advice. Towing your freaking trailer and this thing falls out, and you're stuck on the side of the road wondering if your transmission just went, all right, you're going to be happier all the way around. Your customer's going to be happier if you use a genuine filter, just because of that, all right? I'm not going to insult anybody saying where I bought the filter that came without that, but I'll just say it ends in APA. Anyway, if you could figure that out. So here's the part number on the kit that I got. All right, you can see it's got this nice gasket. It's not that all rubber one that you get with some of those aftermarket ones, which you over tighten on these bolts a little bit, it'll squish and it'll leak. All right, you have to torque these things evenly. Okay. Besides that, the other things we have here on the table today are, this is a Febi, or however you want to pronounce that, these guys. Okay, and that is your drain plug. Okay, this one I believe is a BMW part number. This is your fill plug on the side of the transmission. It's going to be on the driver's side towards the back. Now, anytime you do a differential or a transmission, this is some old timer advice. Okay, I'm not that old, but I got this from a bunch of old timers. Always remove your fill plug first, especially on old rusty differentials. You don't want to drain that fluid and then not be able to get the fill plug out to refill it, right? So just take that advice. Be careful about that. New bolts aren't really 100% necessary, but you don't want one that someone overstretched in there. You snap off one bolt on you when you're in the middle of the job. You got to go to work in the morning. It's 12 o'clock, in the morning, or, I guess that would be Monday morning, late Sunday night, Monday morning, and you got to go to work and you snap one of these off. You're not going to be a happy camper, all right? So if you're prepping for the job, if you're watching this and you're on the shitter, take note of this stuff and do it the right way, right? Get this stuff. Also, we like to do the transfer case. So we have the crush washers for the differential as well as the transfer case here. I believe these are the part number and the size, if you want to just try to find it. I think I got this from Pelican Parts, if I remember right. So this is gonna be for, like I said, the transfer case. I think these are for the differentials, front and rear, and then so are these bigger ones. And then these are also another set that I had for transfer case. All right. Now fluid. Oh man, some people are gonna flip out on me here. Okay, but check this out. Lifetime oil, no oil change, bullshit. All right. I work on some ZF stuff as well. Okay, and look at my videos on that stuff too. Hey, ZF says 80,000 miles. BMW says never change the oil. Who are you gonna believe? Believe the people who made the transmission, right? Okay, now that special fluid that they put in here, it was a Texaco fluid that you can no longer get. It's like a light brown color. Okay, this stuff's red, but it's essentially the same thing. All right, it's a GM transmission, so I think we'd be okay with genuine GM OE fluid, Dexron 6 synthetic. All right, and what I'm going to do is, I know you see a lot of fluid here. When you drain the pan, you get roughly 6 quarts. I measured that for you guys. Anyhow, I'll show you that later, but you get just under 6 quarts when you do this right. Okay, when I say right, I took out all these bolts all the way around. I left like these 2 in, okay, and I left these 4 at the back end, but I just barely loosened them. All right. First thing I did was take out the drain plug and let most of it drain. Then I took out all those up to about there. I took out all of these up to about here, and I left these just a little bit loosened. And the reason is, once I take these out, then this pan will drop down off the transmission like so, just a little bit, okay? As I loosen up these back 4, it'll angle down more and more and more, and you'll be surprised how much more fluid you get out. Now you can see that you're not gonna get it all out because of that raised nut that the drain plug threads into. Obviously, make sure you clean your magnet. This one had a lot of paste on it, but it did not look like a glitter factory in here, thank God. This thing only has, it has about 186,000 miles. This customer has another X5 like this one that has 350,000 miles on it, believe it or not. It still runs good. It looks like hell, but it still runs good. Okay, torque specs. So the fill plug is about 20 pounds per foot. The drain plug is, that's upside down, 15. And the small ones all the way around the perimeter is about 8. Most people say 10. All right, you could probably get away with 10. Just go very, very lightly at first just to get it all seated, nice and flat. And then you tighten up a little bit at a time. I like to do it in probably about 3 stages and do a spiraling pattern to basically allow the stress as you tighten it down to be distributed. So let's say you start there, just kind of spiral like this, okay, in your method of tightening them, okay? And then that way you're forcing the stress out towards the ends of the pan as you tighten it down to keep it nice and flat and prevent you from having any leaks. And you can see that I cleaned this, okay? I cleaned this pretty well with just some Scotch-Brite and a little brake cleaner, and then wiped it out real good with some blue lint-free towels. You don't want to use towels with lint. You don't want lint inside your transmission. These things were assembled in a clean room, so that's, you know, if you get any ideas from that, you know, you want to be as clean as you can. So, you know, broom sweep your floor and make sure you're not kicking up a bunch of dust and stuff when you have this pan open. And then also that channel where the bolts go, you don't want to be hearing a crunching noise as you're tightening your bolts back down. So it's good to clean the outside of the pan too. Makes it easier to handle going back in. All right, everything's nice and clean. The other thing is I use this stuff called trans glue. I didn't bring it over here, but I use that to lubricate these 2 seals that are on here. And yes, there's 2. So you want to make sure that when you pull it out, that you get both of them, okay? When you're going back in, you want to make sure you lubricate the hole that it's going into. You know, if there's not transmission fluid still in there, use a little bit of the trans glue stuff, or I mean even a little very light little bit of Vaseline will work on these, okay? And then you push it up into there. I prefer to use something that's meant for transmissions, so I'll go over there and show you that, what that stuff is. And then be careful not to snap this neck off. Taking out the old one too, you just want to kind of wiggle back and forth, pull down a little, wiggle up and down, pull down a little. Don't be an animal, just take it easy, right? It'll come out, okay? So that's pretty much the parts and the fluid. This stuff, Lube Guard, very good stuff. okay? Helps protect the fluid, protect the trans. All right. This trans has a lot of miles on it, hasn't really been serviced. So not that we're gonna throw a miracle fix in it. This stuff's kind of thick, so it's gonna help us to maintain pressure throughout the valve body and inside the transmission. And I have used this before in my own vehicle. I used to have an old X5 like this, and it worked wonders, doing exactly what I'm gonna do here. So I laid this out so you can see. The transfer case holds about 1 quart. All right. When you drain it, you got about 6. Okay. So the first fill is gonna be this 6. All right. While I have it up on jack stands, and it's not on ramps, it's on jack stands, and they're on the jack pads. All right. If you don't know how to jack up a vehicle safely and you don't have jack stands, I don't advise doing this job, because you want to be able to put it in gear, and you don't really want to do that on top of some plastic ramps. It's bad enough driving them up on some plastic ramps. If your grandpa has the old steel ones, go for that. But you don't do this on ramps. Do it right so you can level the vehicle right. I like to put the ass end of it a little bit higher, and that way I can make sure I get a good fill in the transmission. Not incredibly high, just a little bit, because the transmission is mounted with the tail end of it, I should say, slightly lower. So I split the difference. I don't try to level the transmission pan, but I leave the back slightly higher. All right. Do it safely. Put a wheel chock, start jacking up at the front. There's a nice big plate in the middle underneath where you could jack up from. And then in the back, I use a block of wood under the differential and go up very slowly, listening, looking. All right. Be observant. Don't have any little kids around. All right. And have a cleaner garage than this so you have more room to work. I usually do, but like I said, I have a lot going on. So anyway, Dexron 6 synthetic, Lucas. There's a couple different types of Lucas. This is not the engine oil one. Remember, this is for transmission. It's red in color. And there's also a seal conditioning one, but that one's kind of thin. So if you have a lower mileage transmission, that's not too bad, 60, 70, even 100,000, you don't really need to use this. You can use the seal conditioner Lucas and then a bottle of this. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 1 fill. I'm going to get in it. I'm going to put it through, a couple manual gears, and I'm also going to put it into reverse, a couple times, running it through different gears, different scenarios, so that way it can move the fluid throughout the transmission and mix with the fluid that's still inside the torque converter and up inside the valve body, okay? Then I'm going to drain it again. I know that seems like a waste of 6 quarts, but it's really not, because you're going to get at least half of what's up inside there now with this fluid. All right, then you give it its final fill with this stuff, and it'll take like maybe 2 or 3 quarts, and then you'll have to actually start the engine to pump the rest in. Okay, so don't think that you're just gonna pump 6 quarts into this thing when you put this pan back up. All right. Now, I know I'm talking a lot out here, and I'm not actually under the car showing you, but it's just easier to show you more of this stuff out here first. Then I'll take you underneath the car and show you a little bit better. All right. So again, the plan is we're going to do 1 fill, okay, which is going to be a couple quarts, as much as we could get in there from the fill plug, which is going to be located in about this area. This is the back of the pan on the driver's side, okay? So we're looking at it opposite to how the car is parked right now. All right, so your fill plug is like right there, okay? This is how it actually goes in underneath the car. So you're gonna put 2 to 3 quarts in it, maybe even 4 quarts in it, and it's gonna start running out. At that point, you need to start the engine, okay, and run it through some gears, okay? If it gets noisy, just put it back in park, but get under there quickly and add more fluid, okay? You add until it's spilling out. You don't want to let it get too hot either, because this fluid expands rapidly as it gets hot, and it expands quite a bit. So if the fluid gets too hot, you'll actually end up with a low fill level. On the ZF transmissions, they actually give you a temperature of the pan that it should be spilling out at a trickle. All right, so you should get a trickle at, I think it's about 140 degrees. Another thing you can do is use a scan tool, if you have it, to look at the transmission temperature and set it according to that. All right, so I would go for about the same thing, maybe about 140 degrees pan temp, or or oil temperature, using a scan tool, and then having a trickle coming out. That's where I would set it. Okay, so your initial fill, couple quarts, run the engine, cycle through the gears, and topping up until you get it spilling out. Get your pan temperature right with a little trickle coming out, with the back end of the car up a little bit higher than the front, and that should set your fluid level just right. Then I'll run it through, like I said, drain it, and then I will refill it. And in refilling it, I will add this stuff and this stuff and into the final fill. And I'm gonna put some of this in the transfer case to help out. I'll mix that in with whatever I have left of this fluid in my filling device, so I get maybe 50% of this, 50% of that mixing in. And then I can also use this to top up power steering. So it works out, all right? So there's all that stuff. There's my explanation on the fluid. Let me go show you my filling device. Now, I know not everybody's gonna have this. Some of you are gonna use one of those crappy little hand pumps underneath there. It's gonna be a pain in the ass. You'll get it done, but you're gonna have a really sore arm by the time you're done. So since I do quite a few of these, I used to be a diesel tech. Still work on diesel buses every now and then, not trucks, buses. You get treated a little better when you work on buses. Well, not true for everybody. Certain truck mechanics get treated good, but most don't. Most are underpaid for what they do and not treated well. And I frankly don't appreciate that. So if you have a company and you treat your diesel techs bad, you're an asshole. I'm just, that's just the way I feel. Anyway, it's my channel, not yours. I'll say what I want. So I got these extra long wires with some alligator clips on the end, so I can run it out and run it over to my 24-volt source, which you're gonna laugh at. This is a 24-volt diesel transfer pump. This is fuel line 5/16. So we got some fittings, and we got this wire going up, and I have on the end a little switch so I could cut the pump on and off. And for another control, I have a nice little ball valve right here that I can turn the fluid on and off, so I don't waste a whole bunch of fluid underneath there fumbling for that switch. So I'll cut it off like this, and that'll deadhead the pump a little bit, but it can handle it. And then I will flip that switch off. All right, and so I'll show you what's inside. It's you want to keep the bucket clean. You want to make, if you make that hole to route your hose down in your pickup tube, and you drill for those mounting screws and stuff like that. You want to be clean about this, about making this, and you want to keep it, clean, or at least clean it before you use it. So you can see it's pretty clean. I'm still gonna wipe it out once before I use it. I made some markings on the side for, just added fluid and marked it. Sometimes what I would do is I would mark, how much fluid I drained out. If I drained a bunch of fluid, and then put that same amount of fluid back in. I've done that before too. So I ran that. I used to have clear hose on the outside instead of a fuel line like this, but it got petrified. It got so hard, so it was hard to flex it. So this keeps it right down close to the bottom, and you see that metal is just slightly longer than the tube. So we leave just a tiny bit of fluid in the bottom of this thing, but it's actually pretty good. It's pretty straight. And then, as you can see, when I close it down and I latch it down, it's at the right height. So my 24-volt source is really two, I guess you could consider them motorcycle batteries. But they're right here in my son's little, this contraption. We got some parts for this quad we're rebuilding stashed in it for now. Anyway, whatever, it's locked out. See that? Equipment's locked out. We got two batteries in here with some relays. This gives them a turbo mode. We got some performance motors from a place called ML Toys and put it in here, and this thing rips. But yeah, that's my 24-volt source. Just basically tying into two 12-volt batteries linked together. If you do that, be careful, don't burn your place down. If you do, that's not my fault. All right, look up how to connect two 12-volt batteries properly to get 12 volts, and then, or to get 24 volts, sorry, and use a fuse. All right, good luck. That's how I get my 24 volts from my diesel transfer pump, which this thing works surprisingly well and surprisingly fast. That's the old fluid. That's a graduated pen, and I can clearly see that I got about 6 quarts out of it. I don't think you guys will be able to see that, but I think the max is 7 quarts, so we're like right there. All right, so we got just about 6 quarts, and I didn't spill any using the method that I told you of taking the pan down slowly and carefully. So there it is, assembly goo. All right, it's blue and tacky. All right, keep it clean. Don't put a bunch of dirty stuff in there. If you're gonna use it for transmissions, you're gonna want to keep it clean. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. Oh my god. Anyway, there's that N62 we're working on. That'll be done soon, and we'll have a bunch of videos to post on that. Boy, what a nightmare so far, but it's gonna turn out good. All right, so the drain plug is a T45, which is already underneath the vehicle. This is the old drain plug, and I was gonna show you guys how flat that O-ring is, which is why I don't reuse them, because I don't want to have to tighten down that much, you know what I mean, to get it to seal. So, and I marked it so I don't end up using the wrong one. I've seen people do that before. Scotch-Brite for cleaning up the edges of the pan, and also cleaning up the surface underneath on the transmission. Brake cleaner, very good. Buy it at Walmart. It's much cheaper at Walmart than some of these retail stores for auto stuff. All right, so let's go underneath. There's that T45 for the drain plug. 10 millimeter. I used the electric ratchet to take them off. The old bolts are being replaced. Don't use that to put it back on. And let's go underneath and take a look. I know I said earlier I'm not old, but I feel old. Okay, I'll do my best to get you guys some good footage underneath here. Okay, clean up your pan surface good. All right, obviously we got a little oil dripping still, so I gotta clean that surface back up again. I had already hit it with some brake clean and stuff, but and the Scotch-Brite, but you can see how clean it is, right? So you want it to be that clean, okay? Well, not that clean, but you know, like that clean, okay? And no oil. That's the best way to do it. And then tighten down nice and even. Just go by hand at first, all the way around, and then so it seats nice and evenly. All right. So also, I wanted to show you guys on the transfer case that, let's see if I get the light over here a little better. Not working with the lift yet, guys. Help me get some views and some likes, and maybe we'll see what happens. So there's your fill plug, and your drain plug is just on the other side right here, and this is on your transfer case. All right. Sorry if it went upside down for you guys, but this is towards the front of the vehicle. That's the front drive shaft you're looking at right there, and then this is towards the rear of the vehicle, and then that's your cross member that you're looking at right there. Okay, so you drain it, and then you just fill it till it's coming out of the fill plug right there. And that's it for the transfer case. It's pretty simple. I wouldn't tighten those more than about 20 pounds per foot. That's enough to crush a crush washer, but use a new one. That way you can feel it. When you're tightening it down, you can feel that give of that crush washer. If you reuse the old one, you don't really feel that give. So don't go crazy. Less is more with that. And then also another thing I wanted to show you guys is, see if I can get my fat finger in here. That's the fill plug right there. Okay, so mine is loose, just not removed. But that's where it is. It's close to that drive shaft towards the rear of the transmission. All right, so you can see that that's above the pan level, right? So you got to make sure that you have a nice clean seal when you're tightening it up. All right, guys. And so I'll leave you guys with that. Just remember, tighten up evenly, fill once until it's coming out. When it's coming out, then you want to go up, start the engine. Obviously make sure nothing flammable, no whole bunch of oil all over your exhaust, right? Wipe your exhaust down. You will get a little bit here and there, but just wipe it down with a little brake clean and a rag. Fire it up, run it through some gears, quickly get back under here. And that's where a nice filling bucket like the one I made really helps out, because you can easily just chug a bunch more fluid into that thing, and it's not a problem. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this one buttoned up. Hope you guys have luck with yours. Do your transfer case. I would recommend doing the differentials too if you're a mechanic selling this service to a customer on an older vehicle like this. It's advisable to just sell it as a powertrain service. Do the transmission, the transfer case, and the differentials front and rear. Get all your O-rings and seals and your crush washers and everything all set up. Get your fluid ready. and go ahead and do a complete job on the powertrain. And one other thing that I should mention is, this transmission is a 5L40E. That E stands for electronic. So there's a control module that controls this, and that control module learns. Okay, so another really good thing to do, hang on guys, let me get out from under here. I would say would be to get yourself a good scan tool. Now, the scan tool I have is not the greatest. It's not the Snap-on 1.21 gigawatt. It's an Autel Maxi Scan, but I also have a tablet inside that has the Beamer Geeks program on it. We could use that too. Use something like this. This one has a wireless adapter. Pretty cool. If you don't have one, go somewhere where someone has a good scan tool. They may charge you an hour labor, which, you know what, don't complain about that shit because you didn't buy your own. All right, so if you don't have your own, you're not doing this every day, I understand, but don't bitch and complain when you take it somewhere and they say, all right, it's 1 hour labor for me to hook up and reset your adapters. All right, since the transmission computer learns the way the transmission shifts, okay, and I know some of you are like, what the heck? Some of you are like, I already knew that. But for those that didn't, that might be mind-boggling to you. But yes, computers do learn the way you drive, the way you shift, okay? And it takes time to adapt to that. Can it adapt over time on its own? Yes. But if you want the feeling of the transmission service to be immediate for your customer, then you might want to think about resetting the adaptive factors. And it may shift a little rough and stuff, but you should drive it around a little bit before you give it to them and do a couple drive cycles, low speed, high speed, a couple decels, like put it through its paces. Shut it off, get out of the car, lock the doors, wait about 15-20 minutes, let it go to sleep, and then drive it again. And then that way you kind of put it through a couple cycles like that so that it learns how to drive again. And don't drive like a maniac, but don't drive like a grandma either, all right? So that way it learns something in between, which is how most customers drive, right? Or if you know the way your customer drives, then shit, drive like them. Drive it like you stole it, or drive it like you're driving Miss Daisy, one way or the other, all right? Anyhow, good luck. I hope it works out for you. Don't drink and drive. We're still in this pandemic. Wear a mask. Be safe out there, people. Take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you liked the video.